Welcome to EddyEd TV.
Don't it feel good when you've been in his presence?
What I'm about to tell you is one of the last memories I can still remember from middle school, and not for a good reason. I'd argue that it was the most traumatic thing that has ever happened to me. When I was in middle school, I didn't have a lot of friends. The friends I did have were all a little odd, but then again, so was I. We spent a lot of time together and enjoyed a lot of the same things. There was Greg, Jay, Mark, and myself. We were inseparable. Back then, it seemed like the four of us would last forever. Looking back though, it was pretty clear that Jay and I were beginning to distance ourselves from Mark and Greg, but that's neither here nor there. One summer, Greg invited the three of us on a week-long trip to Maine. Greg's family had a summer home up in Maine on one of the little islands in Casco Bay. To be completely honest, his family was really secretive about the place, and none of us even knew it existed until he invited us there. His family was strange in general, but that's a story for another time. The drive was long and uncomfortable. I had a runny nose and was sneezing the entire time, which I could tell was really pissing off Greg's dad. He was one of those over-the-top germaphobes, and I got really uncomfortable anytime he'd look at me. Mark and I were also bickering about something stupid, but the two of us tended to get into that a lot. We had to drive the car onto a ferry in order to make it to the island. That part was actually really fun. The house was small but pretty. I remember feeling detached from reality in that house. I can't really explain it. It was like a whole other world on that island. I still feel like it would be easy for a person to get lost in that house, if that makes any sense. The island had a really dreamy feel. Everyone knew each other, and random people on the street would recognize and say hello to Greg when they saw him. We spent most of our time biking around, an activity that never got boring at our age. I'll skip the boring stuff. I don't remember all of it anyway. The second day of the trip, I couldn't find my Barcelona snapback cap anywhere. I was really upset since I was a huge soccer fan, and it was one of the only pieces of merch I had. Greg said he thought I left it on the beach, but I was almost certain I'd brought it back. I remember crying to Greg's dad, who basically told me to get over it and not let something small ruin the trip, so that's what I did. The next day, after a long day of biking around, I realized one of my pens was missing. I had a pen collection at that time, which I brought everywhere. Like I said, weird kid. I couldn't remember whether or not I had taken that specific pen out of my case, but Jay said he remembered seeing me holding it on my bike. I was devastated. To me, losing a pen was the equivalent of losing a limb. That's how serious I was about them. I refused to cry again in front of Greg's dad, so I claimed I wasn't feeling well and opted to spend the rest of the evening in bed. I ended up falling asleep really early because of that, so I guess I shouldn't have been—
Man, hold on, man. What the heck is you gonna cry because you lost a pen? Why would you even bring it to? It sounds like one of the movies that obviously you shouldn't have made the choice given the situation. You're gonna bring your best collection with you on a trip where you definitely have the potential of leaving it, losing it, getting it stolen. There's so many risks. You gonna bring it. Let's go, man.
Surprised when I woke up at 3 a.m. and couldn't fall back asleep. I was rolling around trying to fall back asleep when I picked up on something. I froze for a few seconds to confirm what I was hearing. Someone was whispering, almost inaudibly. I had to focus really hard to even hear it. Was I dreaming? There was no shot. I tried as best as possible to make out what they were saying, but couldn't understand a single word.
Oh, that's scary.
It sounded like it was coming from Mark's bed, the top bunk across the room from me, but I couldn't be certain. I waited a few minutes, but the whispering continued. For some reason, I was scared to say anything or reveal that I was awake. Eventually, I blocked the whispering out of my mind and fell asleep. The next morning, I tried to forget about what had happened the night before. I debated asking my friends which of them had been doing it, but decided against it. We were playing some dumb game in the yard when Mark said he had to use the bathroom. He was gone a while, but that was typical for Mark. He took a lot of time to do everything. Eventually, I I shot a glance back at the house and had to do a double take. In one of the second floor windows was Mark, staring blankly out at us.
What?
I figured he was in the bathroom, but that's when it hit me. Greg's house didn't have a second floor bathroom. I turned to see if either Greg or Jay noticed, but neither of them were looking. When I turned to look back at the house, Mark was gone.
That ain't Mark.
Greg's dad was planning on taking us to dinner that night, but I didn't want to go. I pretended to be sick again and told him I wanted to nap instead.
Why?
He said that was fine and told me he'd bring me back something. As I was lying in bed, I realized there was no way I was going to fall asleep. I started thinking things over in my head. I just couldn't get over how weird it was that Mark was watching all of us from the house, and the whispering was even creepier. I'm not sure what compelled me to do it, but I got out of bed and started snooping around Mark's bunk. Basically hit the floor when I found my Barcelona cap in his duffel bag.
Oh,
I
shit.
dug around some more and found a bunch of my personal belongings that I didn't even know were missing.
What?
There was a nail clipper my mom had packed for me in there, along with my extra toothbrush,
He's
and
stealing.
most disturbingly, a pair of my underwear.
Oh,
I didn't know what to think.
no. What's up with Mark? Mark stealing underwear? What kind of freaky behind thief is Mark out in these streets? Is that rhyme? Wasn't trying to rhyme. But what is Mark doing freaky behind stealing stealing underwear for? Yo, Mark gotta get got, bro.
I was about to cry when I noticed something else in the bag. His notebook. Sometimes, even to this day, I still regret picking up that notebook. My middle school brain was not prepared for what was in there. It was completely filled with drawings, pencil drawings, some sketched so aggressively that there were holes in some of the pages. There were drawings of monsters, creatures, and things out of nightmares. There were really disturbing acts of violence drawn in there. People getting run over by cars, stabbed, mutilated, tortured. It was sick. Worse than sick, it was demonic. There was honest-to-God demonic shit in there. There were drawings of me in there. The image that was never and will never leave my brain is a drawing of me on a cross with my legs missing. The last few pages were basically all of me, and one of the pages was just my name, scribbled 100 times.
What the heck?
It makes me sick thinking about
that's
everything
scary.
I saw in there, and there's stuff I haven't even mentioned. The last page was the worst. My name was at the top of the page in big letters, and below it were 4 words I'll never forget. I'll do it tomorrow.
What?
When everyone got
son.
back home,
Yo, son. What the heck, bro? And you're on a trip. Hold on, let's finish it. Let me see.
I got Greg's dad alone and told him about what was going on in a low voice while my friend started a movie in the living room. He didn't believe me until I showed him Mark's notebook, which I could tell he found equally disturbing. He didn't know what to do. He told me to put everything back the way I found it. I didn't want to, but he was the adult, and I couldn't tell him no. As I was putting the notebook back, I made a split-second decision and tore one of the pages out. Meanwhile, Greg's dad then ran out to the living room and told everyone there was a family emergency and that we had to end the trip early. As we were frantically packing our things, I could feel Mark's eyes burning a hole in my back. I was scared to look at him. We pulled out of the driveway, caught the first ferry off the island, and drove the whole way back without stopping once. Greg's dad dropped Mark off first, then James. James and Greg lived on the same street, so he let Greg out of the car with James. As we were driving to my house, Greg's dad told me that he'd talked to Mark's parents, and that it was best that I not mention anything to my parents. Greg and Mark's families were really close, so I guess that made sense. When I got home though, I couldn't last 10 minutes. I broke down crying to my parents and told them everything. They were furious and called the police in the same minute. My parents were also outraged that Greg's dad would try to sweep something so serious under the rug. Things get a little fuzzy after that. I remember crying again while telling the police what happened.
Why you always crying,
When
son?
they asked for proof, I was able to show them the page I ripped out of Mark's notebook. Apparently, that was enough. The police obtained a warrant and actually found the notebook. My items were all returned except for my pen, which the police were never able to find. My parents didn't tell me much about how things went, but I never saw Mark again. His family moved, and he never showed up to school again. I never hung out with Greg again either. The reason I'm writing this now is because last week, I received an anonymous letter in the mail. It said I remember everything, and wrapped inside the envelope was the pen Mark had stolen from me all those years ago. I have no idea how he found my address or why it's taken him so long to reach out.
Shoot.
I'm honestly considering switching apartments.
Hey, you better
If anyone
switch.
has any advice about my situation, I'd greatly appreciate it.
Listen, you gotta switch, ditch, and leave. I was trying to rhyme, but listen, you gotta get up out of there, dog. You have to get up out of the mix. It's time for you to exit. First of all, I know a lot of information is online these days, but how did he find you? And if he found you one time, he's probably gonna find you again. So I don't know what to tell you, man. You gotta figure something out, man. Talk to an expert. I don't know what to tell you, but this is going. If you don't do something, it might end badly. Crazy story. But what did he mean he gonna do it tomorrow? Do what tomorrow? 3 things come to my mind. He stole his underwear, so his freaky side. Hold on, let me scan in on me real quick. Freaky behind. Mark. Firstly, he stole your underwear. I don't know if he's into. I don't know if he's about that freak action, or I don't know why he stole your underwear. That's just strange. So he could be doing something. He could be talking about something, doing something with you. I don't know, in that sense. Or he might be trying to stab you up. That's number 2. Number 3. Hey, Mark might have been possessed. Mark might have been possessed. That's where I'm going to. Drop your thoughts in the comments, man.